The New York Yankees conducted their final day of the draft, which was the 11th through 20th rounds. And while there isn't as much public information and public hype around these players, for understandable reasons, they have flaws or, won't sign with the team. And obviously, those are reasons to not really, give them the same hype or level of attention that your early round picks get. But there are still ways to generate value in these rounds, whether that's producing prospects who get involved in big trades or getting, consistent major leaguers. Nestor Cortez was a 36th round pick. Ben Rice was a 12th round pick in 2021 for a more recent example. There are ways to generate value in these rounds. So I don't think they're things to ignore. Rather, they are more of kind of in the back of your head compared to your first or second day picks. It doesn't make these guys any less important. It doesn't make their accomplishments any less impressive. And I'm really excited to get through all 10 picks the Yankees made yesterday. But before we do that, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We greatly appreciate you guys' support. We've got a lot of really positive feedback on day 2, and we really do appreciate that. It is an effort that I think, it just feels good to have that effort appreciated. And it feels good to know that I'm providing you guys with information that you guys find relevant and useful. But with that being said, let's get started with the Yankees' 11th round pick, and that is right-handed pitcher Mac Estrada. Now, Mac Estrada is another tall right-handed pitcher. He has a commitment to FSU. And while last year wasn't a significantly dominant year or anything of the sort, you did get to see him kind of flash him upside at the JUCO level. He's hit 96 miles per hour with his fastball. He's got a good slider, a good changeup. But the fine skills we'll need to refine are with his mechanics, his consistency and delivery. I think the overall skill set here is super easy to see in terms of why do the Yankees like this guy? Oh, it's because he's tall, he can throw pretty hard, and he has some movement. He's only 19 years old. He'll begin the 2025 season as a 20-year-old. But the Yankees will have a little bit of a challenge signing him because he does have that commitment to Florida State University. He is coming out of a JUCO. The Yankees will need to invest a pretty significant chunk of, their draft money in him. You have limited draft pool money. You can't just give everybody as much money as you would like to. So that goes into the strategy of who you draft in earlier rounds. It may be why the Yankees decided to go with Ben Hess in the first round, somebody who they knew they could underslot with. But Estrada has the upside and the potential to be a good pitcher down the road. He was a prolific pass rusher at his high school. He is a good athlete. Again, he moves well. He's got a good frame. He's got all that good body stuff that goes alongside pitch movement and pitch velocity that are pretty impressive for a 19-year-old. So pretty happy with that pick. We'll see if the Yankees can convert that into a guy they end up signing, or maybe that's a player who gets better at FSU and that interest and that relationship turns into a draft pick later down the road at a higher value. With that being said, though, the next pick for the Yankees in the 12th round, number 361 overall, was outfielder Brendan Jones. Now, Brendan Jones is a left-handed hitting outfielder, left-handed throwing outfielder, pure lefty, and he's got really, really good speed and mobility skills. He stole 40 bases in 42 attempts last season, making him one of the best base stealers in the NCAA. And he's got some decent slug. He slugged 481 at the Cape Cod League back in 2023. He slugged 500 in the 2024 NCAA campaign. And he's a really good athlete. There is a lot to like here. I'm pretty sure I've seen some stuff of him maybe being on participating in track in high school, but I couldn't confirm if that was the same Brandon Jones. With that being said, though, what we do know is that at the college level, he's run well. Defense and speed, those are two things that, they don't necessarily age well, but they don't slump. So, we're talking about having a center fielder who can play defense at a high level, who has excellent range, who has really good speed, all that stuff. We're talking about a center fielder who can play, right? Even if he doesn't really hit that much, there will always be value in having that kind of player. And there is some slug there. There's enough slug where, you could realistically see him, maybe be a solid hitter at the professional level. And I say at the professional level, not saying the major league level, you got to hit the minor leagues, right? Everyone's got to hit the minor leagues if they want to get to the majors. And if he's a solid enough hitter, he could find himself getting a major league role down the road. Again, he just has kind of the two main skills that are always useful, even in a bench capacity, and that's speed and defense. So, I feel, and it's at a premium position as well. So I feel pretty good with this pick as well. It's hard for me to sit here and tell you, I really hate this pick or that pick. As long as they're selecting players that, you can justify, I think that's what matters. It's a little different than basketball and football because these guys aren't coming in as, league ready players. They're coming in as projects, as development pieces. And the Yankees have spoken publicly a lot about how much they value the projectability of a player when they're selecting that. I think Sam Breen talked about that a few months ago in regards to their pitching draft strategy. Try to draft guys that think they can develop, not necessarily guys that are maximized in their development stages, because those guys typically don't pan out to be much more than like okay players at the next level. Moving on to the 13th round, we have Dylan Lewis. Now, Dylan Lewis has some serious power, and I've seen some really good things about his bat speed. He hit 22 home runs in 55 games last year, but his power isn't reliant on the metal bat, right? So, when you're looking at home runs, slugging, right? Like if they have played in a wooden bat league like Dylan Lewis has, you want to look at what they did in that league, how much did the power drop off. If there's a massive disparity in power, even though it could be a small sample size, it is something still worth noting. And he hit 6 home runs and slugged 733 in 24 games in the Cape Cod League back in 2023, his most recent appearance there. That's going to tell you the power is pretty good. I saw a tweet in regards to Lewis that suggested his top bat speeds exceed 80 miles an hour. That's pretty good. His rotational force, like all that stuff, you can see it in video too. Like his swing mechanics, he has a fierce, ferocious, high rotation, swing. There is a lot of power he generates there, but he is an extremely raw player. The approach, the swing, the stance, everything. Like there's gonna need to be some work kind of done all around. There's a reason he's a 13th round pick, right? Like he would have gone in the first 5 or 6 rounds if he had even some polish to his swing. That's how hard he hits the baseball. But I have no problem taking upside. I love upside picks, and he won't turn 22 till next June. So maybe we see him get tested in single A down the stretch this summer. Sometimes the Yankees send their recent draft picks for a late half kind of just to give single A some more players and to give them a little bit of a taste of the professional scene. I'd love to see how he acclimates. I really would. This feels like a nice little project for the Yankees and their hitting development group, who, credit to them, they do a really good job of developing plate discipline, and, the bat to ball skills development has gotten better over the years. So, I would love to see how those two mesh, if that makes sense. With the Yankees' 14th round pick, 421 overall, we Austin Austin Green, who is technically the first non-first base infielder the Yankees drafted, but also technically not, because he played a lot more outfield last year. His first year in 2023 with Texas Tech, played a lot of infield, put up a 960 OPS. This year, an OPS hovering around 980, plays a lot of the outfield. So I'm not necessarily sure where the Yankees will fit him, but, he is a switch hitter. He does have some good on-base skills. He walked 31 times to 21 strikeouts this past season. So you love to see really good walk to strikeout rates. We'll see if he can manage that and keep, I'm not saying more walks and strikeouts, but a good walk to strikeout rate, because having those numbers, it's important for your player development. It's important for your projectability. It's important just across the board to be able to manage those two ratios or those two numbers and have a really good ratio there. The question I have is the power tool. Like he put up good power numbers in Texas Tech, but again, we got no action with him in a wooden bat league, no Cape Cod, no summer leagues, no nothing. So I would like to see how that translates. There's a reason, again, when a guy falls into the 14th round, you don't think to yourself, oh, yep, this guy is a perfect player. You think to yourself, all right, what are his flaws? Why did he fall? What do the Yankees need to work on him with? And I wonder if that's the power. Maybe it's the defensive value. It is interesting that they shifted him out of the infield so dramatically. And the corner outfield is not a premium defensive position. It's not even as premium as second base. So, defensive value could be a question mark there. And he doesn't really seem to be much of an aggressive base runner. So it feels like the profile is very reliant on the bat. And that's fine. Like we're talking about a 14th round pick here. You can't get, a defensive minded hitter who has a good bat and has really good speed. Like that doesn't exist in these rounds. And if they do, they're committed to colleges and they're not signing. So Austin Green, bat first guy. We'll see how the transition to the outfield works, if that sticks, or maybe he goes back to the infield. The 15th round, the Yankees selected Marshall Toole. And this is the 4th position player the Yankees selected in a row, which, oh my God, right? Like I can't believe the Yankees actually selected more than 2 position players in a row. Like this draft was super pitcher heavy. I believe the Yankees walk away with, I think it was like 12 or 13 pitchers, something, pretty outrageous mark. It was very heavy a very heavy pitching class. But getting back to Tool here, he does a really good job of stealing bases. He had 43 stolen bases in 46 attempts. He legged out 10 triples in 62 games. He is another speed defense guy. This is a speed defense profile, plays a premium position in center field. He played at Woodford College. He showed off, a really strong ability to again, just create havoc on the base paths. He places pressure with his speed. And I'm personally very excited to see how that translates. I love my speed defense guys. I've always been a fan of having guys at premium positions who can play great defense and provide speed value, because if you have a good lineup around them, they're cheap often, right? Like you're usually talking about like a lower cost player, whether that's because you drafted them and they're in their first 6 years of service time, or they're a player you picked up on a 1 or 2 year deal at a low cost. I love those picks. I always love those kinds of players. I think they're fun. I think they're very important to a ball club. I think they oftentimes go overlooked because people just kind of go, oh, their war is all based on defense. Well, I fundamentally disagree. I think that having a good war because you're a good defense is important. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but Marshall Tool, left-handed hitting outfielder, good speed, good defense, center field, great range. The kind of player that you hope develops some sort of a bat. As for Xavier Rivas, who was the Yankees' 16th round pick, he was selected 481st overall. There is a chance he returns to Ole Miss. He missed the entire 2024 season due to Tommy John surgery. Doesn't throw really hard, low 90s fastball, but he's got good vertical ride on it. He's got a good slider, a good changeup as well. He can miss bats. Like that's the kind of profile we're looking at here. He had a 6.75 ERA his last collegiate season, which came with Mississippi back in 2023. He struck out 89 batters in 68 innings. Command was a little bit of an issue, but I do think there is something to like here. And I think it's important, just the same way we talk about, guys who, I guess, perform poorly in a metal bat environment versus guys who perform well in a wooden bat environment. I'd like to see how his ERA kind of reflects in a wooden bat league, the pros. I'd also like to see if the Yankees can unlock more velo there, but that's all dependent on whether the Yankees bring him in or not. Ole Miss may, kind of lure him back in. So, we'll see. He'll be 23 next July. It's unclear when he'll return from his, Tommy John surgery. I would say from like my standpoint, if you're going to enter the draft as a 23-year-old next year coming off of Tommy John surgery, like you might as well just take your 16th round selection now. I'm not necessarily sure he's going to get a much higher selection in the next year or so. And the Yankees, they probably will offer him more money than most 16th round picks, but we'll see. Like, I don't really know where this process is going to go. But yeah, good fastball with good vertical ride. We'll see if the velo can tick up and the secondaries are there. This is a starter's profile. We'll see how the Yankees handle this signing situation and potentially his development. In the 17th round, we have outfielder Jojo Jackson. He dominated in his final year at Georgia State. He hit 15 home runs at 13 doubles in 50 games. But with that good power, with the ability to drive the baseball, it comes with a really high strikeout rate. 25.1% doesn't sound high because the major league level, like that's not too much. That's not a lot worse than the major league average. We know plenty of successful hitters with a strikeout rate at around 25%, if not significantly higher. But at the college level, that's pretty high. That's not great for a guy who is going to get drafted or was drafted. That's not necessarily what you would call ideal. Now, in terms of what he did at the draft league, which uses wooden bats, he slugged .592. That's impressive. That's, again, a positive sign. He did cut down the strikeouts in his 20 games. He had like a sub 20% strikeout rate. Maybe that's an indication that he can work on something. Maybe there's something with the swing path or a swing change Yankees can unlock. But he's a good athlete. Good power. We'll see how the Yankees develop him from there. Again, he's a 17th round pick for a reason. If I was going to sit here and tell you about a flawless prospect, they wouldn't be in these rounds. So it's not a knock on them to call them flawed. It's just a reality of the situation. And we'll see if Jackson's able to kind of find or make those adjustments at the major league level next year. He'll be 22 next year. So, not an older prospect. If he starts out in single A and he kind of does his job, he'll be in high A, and a 22-year-old high A certainly isn't being behind in the wagon or anything like that. But moving on to the 18th round, we have right-hander Gus Hughes. Now, Gus Hughes, there is not a lot on him coming out of High Point, but he does have a lot of strikeouts, 111 strikeouts at 102 and 2/3 innings pitched last year. And there's some appeal there for me. When you got swing and miss stuff and you've shown the ability to throw a ton of innings, right? I love that. I love that. I think that's a great profile to bring to the table. He'll be 23 next season. We'll see if he can kind of translate that high workload from last year. I mess with this profile. Like it's a later pick. You know, you're getting a guy who you know can throw innings. You're getting a guy who can miss bats. We'll see if the Yankees can work their pitching magic, which they've done to their credit in these later rounds at a pretty high clip. So we'll see what they do from here. And then the 19th round, you have not Gus Hughes. You have Brandon Decker. Brandon Decker tossed 102 and 2/3 innings last year for Oakland University in a swingman role. He's got a unique delivery that sees him get deep in his stride. It creates some weird. You got to watch him throw. It's a little weird, but it's interesting. I like weird mechanics. Weird mechanics, if you can refine them, make them a little more consistent, right? You end up, with a pitcher who's releasing maybe from a funky arm slot. That can always be deceptive. We'll see if he's a starter or reliever, but he's a taller guy. He's a lanky guy. Maybe the Yankees can help him uptick his velo by having him go on maybe some sort of velo training program. Maybe that's adding more weight. Maybe that's, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a mechanical deficiency. He's an interesting guy. This is an interesting arm. And, interesting arms in the 19th round. Sure. And as for their final pick, their 20th round pick, 601 overall, it's Cole Royer, a right-handed high schooler. He's committed to Georgia Tech. The Yankees are going to have to pry him out of that commitment because when you're the last round pick, the money usually isn't great. He's got a projectable frame. He stands at 6'6", with a low 90s fastball. If he just has that velo jump, if he ever hits, 96, 97, which is totally doable, his draft stock will rise. Like he'll get more money elsewhere. We don't know what the NIL money looks like. It's a full ride scholarship from my understanding. Getting your education is important as well. I'm sure that's a conversation. I don't really see a reason why Cole Royer would forego, a free ride to college, a free education, to be a 20th round pick in the organization, unless the Yankees offer some serious cash, which again, it's just kind of hard to imagine they would. I'm sure they're going to offer more than most people offer their 20th round picks, but I don't think it's going to be enough to lure him in. If they can lure him in, that'd be great. I really like the profile here. Like it's a low 90s fastball, but again, like he's got a good breaking ball, projectable frame. He's 6'6", right-handed. He's got the tools. There's a reason he's a full scholarship guy to a Division I school, right? Like that's kind of the best way to put it. So, this day of the draft is usually the least information packed because there's not as much public stuff out there. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to our draft content. We're gonna have some prospect stuff, some mid-season reviews. We'll have that coming out over the weekend. But without further ado, you guys can check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and of course this YouTube page. Follow me at Ryan Garcia ESM on Twitter, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Perfect.